Welcome back. So recently I put a poll on one of the Discord groups and I asked everyone, do you think the methodology that I'm using will result in myself or even somebody else ultimately finding the treasure box? And an overwhelming amount said absolutely not. And that was discouraging. Some are on the fence, and I'd say about 1 out of 5 are like, yeah, you're doing something here. So and I found that troubling at first. And I decided to go ahead and flip that a little bit and think of it, people that have it that are, not seeing what I'm seeing, I haven't given them enough stuff to really kind of say, hey, look at this. I've only showed you guys a little bit. There is a conundrum there. Like, do I keep sharing more? And then ultimately everyone finds out everything I know, or do I keep everyone in the dark and actually be able to search for the treasure in the light, if that makes sense? So I definitely struggle with that a little bit. I I'm compelled to share some of this stuff. It's cool, it's fun. There's definitely a lot of clues that I've withheld, simply for the fact that I don't really want people to catch me. I mean, I want you to understand the puzzle, but at the same time, I want you to kind of see what I see and enjoy it for what it is. But I get a lot of pushback, particularly a few people are saying things like, I don't like how you have to go search for the clues, where they're not like, I guess, touching, or um, like you have to actually like maybe move around the board a little bit to find the answers. One example, not a lot of people have seen this video, but it's the Blue Oyster Cult. When you go to find that and you need to find the band name, the entire song, with the addition of like a lyric, and you're trying to like figure out where all this goes in this sort of area. People are just kind of rolling their eyes to that, saying that doesn't make any sense. Why do you have to go all over the place to spell this word? And I'm going to tell you today why that is. Because essentially, the anatomy of a puzzle begins like this.
Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it.
First of all, he starts with, hey, here's a word search. Good luck. And you find some words and you feel okay, feel confident. You're like, okay, I see some clues here. I'm going to use that. Then he's like, got a lot of room here. So let's go ahead and let's hide a message in there. I got room. I'm going to put a message in there. But people are probably going to struggle with this message. So I need to maybe layer something else in there that helps them solve that message. So he sticks a little thing in there called letters solve phrase. I've mentioned that in one of my videos. And he's like, you know what? Let's make this a little bit more complicated. I want to go and get some ciphers in there. I got to get some information about Bitcoin in there. And, let's break this up into rounds. We're going to go with a round one, a round two, and possibly a round three. So how do we go about that? Okay, well, let's just make it nice and easy for everybody. Let's go ahead and just kind of uniform it, kind of make it nice and easy. We got our word search, our hidden message, Bitcoin, ciphers, round one, round two, round three, and we're going to make it real easy for everybody. But there's a problem. He's used up all of his area for this hidden message and word search. He's like, well, I could probably squeeze a little something in here. So let's go ahead and clue in people to this cipher. So, okay, I got room for that. Let's put it in there. But I want to work round one in, and I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just let's just start layering it in there. And it's like, well, what do I want to put in there? What do I have room for? Okay, we're just going to put it right on top of this, and let's just put some Ready Player One in there and Ready Player Two. And let's get some Dungeons and Dragons in there, maybe Monty Python, a Pac-Man. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But I think it needs more. Let's get creative and let's throw, a key in there, maybe two. And let's throw some images in there to really really excite people. Let's put a joust in there and maybe a chalice and a dragon. Do I have room for some more stuff? Okay, yeah, I got to get Bitcoin in there. I forgot about that, so let's put that in there. I got a little room over here in the corner for Zork, and you know what the heck? Let's throw Tron in there too. I mean, why not, right? So okay, we're kind of full here. Oh, forgot I got to put those ciphers in there, right? So let's just throw that right on top of this. And we'll throw some ciphers in there and say, hey, let's solve some ciphers. But, oh, you know what? I got to go ahead and put in some solves for these ciphers. So that's got to somehow end up in here. And I've already used up so much room for my round one. And then I kind of layered these ciphers in, but let's just dump that on top. We'll go ahead and dump all of our cipher solves right on top of that. And we'll just mix them in and they'll be fine. But let's go ahead and also think about maybe let's make it a little more complicated. Throw round two on top of all of that and make them solve that. And that'll give them a location clue and they'll be happy. They're like, I did all this work. I got my location finally. But how is it close enough? Is that going to get them to the treasure? So let's go and make a round three. And let's stick the round three right in there so that they can actually find the treasure. But I got to put it somewhere where it snows so that they can't find it in the darn winter. So that's going to definitely be what I'll do. So they'll figure this out eventually, 7 to 8 years. That's basically the anatomy of this puzzle. That is why I have had to go and find the clues because and I'll tell you something. I did this early on. I started to find war games and I started to find some of the clues in there. And I thought, how did he build this? Because that to me was the most intriguing part. Because I was like, wow, he's got a word search, then he's got this message. And then on top of that, he's got this war games. Little did I know it got even more complicated than that. But I was like, okay, I know my answers to the war game puzzle. Let's put them in there. And I built the puzzle from the ground up. And I started to like shift the letters and move them around. And I saw that every time I had to like make a new word or do things to sort of build this from the ground up, I started to see the letters move away from where they were supposed to be. You know, they started to get scrambled more. They started to have to move around the board. And then he started introducing these shapes. And I was like, how do I get this shape in here? I got to move this over here. So I started thinking about the board differently. And so when people ask me like, well, how did you get that? I was like, I can't explain how I see certain words in there sometimes, or if I see the image and I know I have to, I can't use this R, I got to use this R, or I got to use this O instead of this O, and all of a sudden my image forms. I think it's probably because I spent some time starting from the ground up and I started to reverse engineer how he built this. And that's probably the best way I can answer this. In addition to that, the riddles and things like that, reading Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, the riddles seem to be kind of come quickly simply because of that. Round two, actually, yeah, I finished that in the night. That was pretty easy. But some people go, how did you? There's just a handful of people, very small, that know what round two looks like. And they're like, how did you do that? How are you sure? And I'm just like, I don't know. I can't honestly give you a really good explanation, except for the fact that I'm wired now to be able to solve a lot of this because of maybe the reverse engineering or breaking it down or just seeing enough of the puzzle and having to wire your brain such that you could solve that particular part. And so, yeah, but really, I showed you all of that. And I really want to show you this last part because is this really what it looks like? All nice and layered like that? No, it looks like this.
Great Scott.
It is just smashed on top of each other and everything is kind of mixed in there. And that's why some of these puzzles, you have to go find the letters. You have to go find the results and you have to kind of build it around that. So yeah, some of these I find highly complicated. Anyways, this is the anatomy of a puzzle. And if you have any questions, be sure to comment, like and subscribe, all that good stuff.